Hello, Accelerated Math 7-8 students. We are starting Module 10, Lesson 3, and it's called Comparing Quantities with Percents on page 52. And our goal for today is, today we will work with the formula quantity equals percent times whole. In the last lesson we did part equals percent of whole, and today we're changing it to quantity equals percent of whole because we are going to be comparing things that aren't necessarily a part of it. So for example, if you said the part of the money, so it was all money. Whereas if we're talking about groups, like there are students that are different grade levels, that's why we switch it to quantities. Okay. The question that I want you to think about, and again, this is the portion of these lessons that we've been working with that's the hardest, is how do you identify what the whole is? You have to be able to read the story and then figure out, okay, what is the whole amount that we're talking about? Okay. Two helpful methods that will really help us figure this out is one of them is called the Arithmetic Method. And basically what you want to think about with the Arithmetic Method is that you're using visual models to help you prove something. The one that I like to use when we're working with percents that really is helpful is using the double number line. So use the double number line to show the corresponding quantities. I always put the percent at the top. I put the quantity underneath. That way I have the guide of putting the percents across the top and then the quantities down at the bottom that correspond with it. So for this exact number line, we have 0% corresponds with 0 in the quantity. 100% corresponds with 300 in the quantity. And then I very easily, depending on which amount I want, I can find the missing amounts. So to get down to 20%, I would divide by 5. So 300 divided by 5 is 60, and then I can fill in the chart as we go. So the double number line is really helpful. You can also use tape diagrams. You can also use any other of the models that we have been working with to figure that out. The second method is called the Algebraic Method. And the Algebraic Method is when you use that formula that we talked about in our goal. So use the formula quantity equals percent times whole. Be careful to identify all the pieces of the formula first. So what that means is I want to know which amount in the word problem represents the quantity, which amount in the word problem represents the percent, which amount in the word problem represents the whole. You have to figure those out first before you can actually use the formula to help you solve. So we're going to take a look at one of these word problems and see if we can figure it out. Okay, try it. There are 750 students in the 7th grade, and there are 625 students in the 8th grade. What percent is 7th grade? What percent is the 8th grade? Okay, so that sounds pretty simple. All right, so we're trying to wrap around how would be the best way to solve this. And again, I've shown you two methods, so I'm going to show you how to use both methods. What I would like to do first is let's do the arithmetic on this side, and we're kind of going to work through them side by side so that you can see the difference between the two. So here's the arithmetic method, and then here's the algebraic method. And so if we're looking at this, before we start using either of them, I would like to identify what we have. So we have quantity and we have whole, and we have to decide which one is which. There are 750 students in the 7th grade. There are 625 students in the 8th grade. So we know for 7th grade there are 750, and we know for the 8th grade that there are 625. Okay, do we have the total? That's the first thing that I would ask. Do we know what the whole is? Do we have the whole amount? Do we have the quantities? Okay, so I would say that right now what we have is two quantities. I would not say that we know the total yet because we haven't figured that out. So the best thing that I would say before we do any of the methods is let's figure out what our total would be. So that would be 5, that would be 7, that would be 13. So we know that there are a total of 1,375 students listed in this problem. So that total will represent our whole amount. Okay, so we're going to say this is a whole, we're going to say these are both quantities. And the quantities make up the whole. Okay? So now, using the arithmetic, if you wanted to do a double number line, we have our double number line here. And we remember that I like to put the percent on the top. Do you have to put the percent on the top? No, you can put it on the bottom. I just get in the habit of doing this because I like to have habits. So I'm putting the percent on the top. So this would be 0% and 0. Okay? 100%, because we just figured it out, would be 1,375 students. That's the total. So our job is to figure out what percent is 7th grade and what percent is 8th grade. Okay? So if we're looking at these numbers are pretty close. So we're thinking that they need to be somewhere around the middle of this chart. But I don't want to just guess. I would like to figure it out. So the best way that I would recommend that you do this is, could we find out what 1% is? And the answer is yes. So again, not drawn to scale, because nothing I ever draw is drawn to scale, but I'm going to try to get to 1%. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, how did I get from 100 to 1? And we say to ourselves, well, you divide it by 100. Okay, well, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I'm now going to take 1375, and I'm going to divide it by 100. So 100 cannot go into 1 evenly. 100 cannot go into 13 evenly. 100 can go into 137 evenly one time. So I have 1. And then I subtract, and I get 7, and I get 3, and now I bring down my 5. So 100 can go into 375 3 times. Subtract, and I get 5, and I get 7, and then I have the answer of 13 75 hundredths. So 13 75 hundredths, which is the same as 13 3/4. Okay, so if I know that that's 3/4, I know that this would be 0.75. Okay, so I now know that 1% is 13.75. So that sounds a little bit crazy, but I know 1% is 13 3/4 kids is the 1%. Okay, so what I would like to do is I would like to figure out what would be 750. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, 7th grade has 750, which means that that's more than 8th grade because 8th grade has 625. So I now know that I have to figure out how to get from 13 3/4 to 750. So I'm going to say 750 is, let's guesstimate somewhere around here. And we're going to put 750. So now you ask yourself, how did you get from 1375 to 750? And I don't know the answer, so I have to divide them. So I'm going to take 750, I'm going to divide it by 1375. And when I do that, I have to remember that in order to divide this out, it has to be a whole number. So to make this a whole number, I have to multiply it by 100. So when I multiply that by 100, I get 1375. So what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 750 times 100, and I get 2 more zeros added on to the end over here, and now I can divide it. So I say to myself, can 1375 go into 7? Not evenly. 75, not evenly. 750, not evenly. 7,500, yes. So now we have to figure out what that would be. So let's try 4 times.
Kaylin, Joe, please come to
20,
the office.
28, 29, 30, 12, 13, 14, 15, and that's 55. So that might be what we need. So let's try 4 here. Subtract this off and see what we get. We get 0, 0, 0, 2. Oh, that's still too big, so we need to go higher. Okay, so now let's try 5. 1375 times 5, and we get 25, 35, 36, 37, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 6. That's better. So now let's try 5. So 68, 75 Okay, so we're regrouping. That becomes 9, 10. So 5, 2, and that's 6. Much better. Okay, and now we get that. Oh, 5 is too big now, so we have to go to 4. So 4 would be here. We're subtracting that off now. And we're right back to where we started. So it looks like, if we put a decimal point here, we have a repeater. And I hope you all can see that. Okay, so that's a repeater. So now, what is the percentage that I have right here? 54 and 54 hundredths repeating forever. So we know that this amount right here is 54 and 54 repeating. Okay, percent. All right. So could we say that the percent of 7th graders is about 55%? And if you said yes, then you are correct. So now, to figure out the 8th graders, we can do two things. We can do the same thing where we take 13 and 75 hundredths divided into 625 because that's what the 8th grade was. Or you have 100 right here. You have 7th grade right here. So could we use those two tools to figure out 8th grade? The answer is yes. So you take 100 and you subtract off the 55 and you get 45%. So we know that 8th grade, 625, is 45% if 7th grade is 55%. Okay, so there's our tool. Did we have to do some math? Yes, we always have to do math because that's what you're in. You're in a math class. But you can see how the double number line helps us. So now you're sitting there going, oh, well, there has to be an easier way because children love to say things are easier. So if we use the algebraic, we are saying quantity equals percent times whole. Okay, we know what our whole is. Our whole is the total students, so we know that that's 1375 times the percent we don't know, so we'll put a variable, p for percent. And then we have to do it twice because we have to do it for 7th grade quantity. So 7th grade is 750. Okay, so we know how to solve this. This is a standard BU chart. So you have a variable. The variable is p. What did you do to p? You multiplied it by 1375. So to undo that, we divide it by 1375 and we're left with p. So we're going to divide this side by 1375. We're going to divide this side by 1375. So you're taking 750 divided by 1375. And lo and behold, kiddos, what do we see right here? The exact same problem over here. So you're going to put a decimal point, and here we go. So we know that it can go in 54, 54, 54 repeating, and then you have to take that number, so 0.5454, and we have to times it by 100. So 1, 2, 3, 4, placeholder 1, 2, 3, 4, placeholder, 4, 5, 4, 5, add it all together, and we get, bum, ba, da, bum, ready, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 54.5, just like we did over here. So we can say 7th grade is about 55%. Okay, again, using the other tool, 100 minus 55 gives me 45%, and that would be your 8th grade. Okay, so I showed you both methods. You have to decide which one that you like the best. The only thing that I need to say about this one is when you get to this point, you have to remember that to turn it into a percent, you then have to take that decimal answer and multiply it by 100 in order to get the percent. Okay? So those are the two methods. We have the arithmetic method and we have the algebraic method, and you just get to decide which one you like best. Sometimes you can use them both together, combined, but it's up to you. Let's go back to our goal for today. Our goal for today was, today we will work with the formula quantity equals percent times whole, which we did. And then also that number one question, and you know what, I don't even know if there's a real answer. I don't know if you can find an easy way to do this, but you have to try. How do you identify what the whole is? And I would say the answer with this is you just have to read it and you have to organize all of your information into the categories. Okay? We did the whole problem together. I may throw an extra try it up on the board for you tomorrow, so be looking for that, and I'll see you then. Okay, bye.